going on, everyone? What's going on?
Internet.
Feels so much better.
Hello.
Like, boom,
We are the nerds. Oh yeah.
clear.
Yes. What an intro. We are the nerds. So, no, guys, it's great to be back. It's great to be back, and what a way to end the series, man. What a way to end the series. On a high note, we would say, right? Everybody's positive.
Yeah.
Everybody's been positive for 7 weeks leading up to week 8. So, what a way to kind of commemorate this season, which just seems like, man, I know we talk about it all the time, but time really does fly.
Flies
When you
by,
kind of
flies
when you
by,
do
yeah.
this, you strain like.
Especially
This
when you're
started what?
enjoying it.
Yeah, it started at the beginning of December, right? First week of December, and like here we are in, January, and it's already over. It's kind of, I don't know, bittersweet, and then we have to,
Yeah.
hold our breath for the next project, which I don't even know what the hell that is, to be honest. Nobody knows.
Oh yes, you do. It's Andor.
Come on.
Andor this spring, right?
It's spring, but yeah, the time frame's it's up in the air. I hope more than likely we'll get our first trailer. I'm guessing around the Super Bowl. They'll probably premiere something.
Yeah, probably
on the Super Bowl as far as
April 22nd, 2025.
Is that what it's showing? April 22nd. So we might get a trailer for the Super Bowl, I imagine.
Right,
right? That'll be before.
Well, who's got a Super Bowl this year? Is it CBS or is it? It's not ABC, is it?
I think it's Fox.
Yeah.
They were talking about
this year.
You guys' friend Brady. He's doing the Super Bowl.
Oh,
our friend, you. Listen, just
Mhm.
because your team was never in direct competition for glory.
Ooh, ouch!
No.
Ouch!
Just because he's 800 miles away doesn't mean you can diss his team.
It feels like he's stinging me right here, Ken.
Do you have your Cam Ward jersey? I know you have your Cam Ward jersey already.
We're not that much better. It's the first time I heard the commentators actually say out loud, boy, they're just playing terrible. They're really just sucking the entire life out of the entire NFL right now. I mean, it was.
Not to get too far off topic here, but it's been a long 8 years since the Steelers forgot to cover Hogan over the middle in the AFC Championship game, and it's been terrible.
It's been a downward slide.
This isn't much better.
Boo hoo, you guys! Boo hoo, you guys! We don't make it. We go to the playoffs, but we never win. Oh, boo hoo! Wow.
Well, I do hope you guys. I hope you guys get that Brook Park expansion. It looks like the city's trying to block them, though. That stadium looks beautiful if they can pull that off.
Hey, it's Cleveland, so if it's not a controversy going on, it's something else. We're paying a guy $230 million to do what? Sit on a beach. Yeah, let's do some show here.
But yeah. Anyways, yeah. A little football banner talk, but no. On positive notes, obviously, if you're new to us, which you shouldn't be, but we do appreciate new viewership. It's Carbonate Bonnie BS, and this is really a Star Wars podcast. Today, we're going to do our season finale of the Skeleton Crew. So, spoiler alert. Hopefully, this isn't your first watch of it, but if it is, we're doing our episode 8 review. So, before we even dive into that, let's let our guy DP let you guys know where to find us at.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people. Your favorite website. You will get all your favorite social media ads. Nerdcyclopedia on Twitter, X now, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok until Sunday.
Last week on TikTok,
last few days on TikTok. So catch us, guys. Right. All right, we're also on podcasts on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Odyssey, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we're there. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Smash that subscribe button. Also hit that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, thank you as well. Make sure that you go to our Nerdcyclopedia page and follow. Give us a like and also follow. And also share it too. Share it with all your friends. Leave us some email too. So we love getting that feedback. Nerdcyclopedia feedback at gmail.com. It is still free.
I was going to say, no
That's
update. We haven't gotten anything about any sort of revenue that we need to start collecting. So the email is still
Hey,
free.
it's still free. Take advantage while you can. It's free.
Yeah. And tax season's coming up, so that's going to help out a lot of folks. So
yeah,
remember
you gotta send your email somewhere, you know.
Right.
So why
Send them
not? Why not
somewhere.
us?
They might as well be free. Don't send us your tax questions.
No.
But like, if you want to send us anything else,
You can, but the advice you're gonna get what you pay for.
Yeah, you are.
and remember, if you send us tax questions, you're going to get free tax advice, which is
You take it for what you will.
right. Which I say, don't do it, but
Keep it succinct. Pay them. Don't not pay them.
He said, "Bam." That's the best wife we could do. We could give you pay them.
pay them, or else you go to jail or something, right?
Yeah, you know.
Don't forget the United States Armed Forces is the biggest or else in the history of man.
Yeah.
So I just recommend paying them.
I think they coined that, or else. Like no one said or else before there was like a military, like or else.
That could be the new slogan like next week. You never
Or
know.
else.
It just might be.
Let's change next week.
I guess it's not the or else. It's the what comes next. Like what? What are you going to do? Oh, this. That's what the military is.
Yeah. Check the release dates if you're watching this show in arrears years later and listening to the podcast as a listen along.
Yep. Those guys were very prophetic, you know.
Not wow. Let me get my thesaurus. Or is that a dictionary? I don't know.
Remember the Webster's books? Yeah.
Yeah, what is that? A book? What the hell is that?
Hey, hold on. Funny story before we start here. My mother, bless her heart, you know, R.I.P. You know, Diane. Years ago, just before the internet really took off in like '95 and everything, she brought us like Webster's, a whole Webster. She was so proud. She brought us like a whole Webster's encyclopedia, you know, set and everything. You know, she was so happy. She paid for it and everything. Next year, you know, internet exploded. 1995, it was just like, I think it was maybe and we just looked at it as like, you wasted all your money on this. Hey, you could have just.
I think you might be the youngest.
I don't think we use those things.
My class might be the youngest class that they made use the library Dewey Decimal System to look stuff up. I remember they brought us and they were like, "No, which one is?" They were like, "Which one is about grass?" Like, you have to go find it in the card catalog or whatever. So I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I doubt anybody younger than me knows how to do that at all. And should they? No, they shouldn't know.
No, not at all. And unless for some reason we go back.
Well, I was just going to say things are going back. Like we're going back.
You're right about
that encyclopedia. You probably don't have it. You don't have it, right, DP? You didn't keep it.
It may be somewhere in my mom's basement. You know, maybe somewhere. You know,
because that would be something you want to
keep.
You never know. There's
you never know when. Yeah, and maybe you know all the history may have went up to like 95. You know, so I don't know how we'll cover like from 95.
After that, it was like. I mean,
yeah. When I was in school, they had a set from like the 60s. So like you look up see computers and be like, computers are as big as houses, and only the 5 richest kings in Europe can afford them.
And nothing changed since the 60s. People are still angry. Anyway, what a great finale this was.
What a great finale.
The real good guys. And I was thrilled to see basically everything, all the nice little, they tied everything up. Everything came together. It was a little quick. It was a little fast for me. So there was a moment like as soon as the pirates got to Ad-Aden and they got through the barrier, we were tying knots. We were tying stuff up. You know, the story was, because it was a little, it paced well up until that point, and then it got really fast. I didn't care that if the story ends there, I'm fine. I don't care if there's not another Skeleton Crew episode. This was a nice nugget to like digest. I loved the way the parents did interact, and it was nice. The only thing, Jod did something that I don't know how I feel about it, but if you're an evil person and you want to get over on people, if you want to get over on somebody, what's the best thing you can do to hang over their head? What's the you involve a loved one.
Yeah.
Okay, you involve you involve either the children or you involve the parents. And you know what Jod used the parents and the children, he threatened them. He threatened them with death in front and to get his way. He ain't no Jedi. I don't care what his little story was that he said. I think it was BS. I think he was still spinning a pirate yarn. Like pirates have to dramatize things and draw, make it much bigger than it was. They're stories. They're like yarns. He was spinning a yarn about something that happened and why he was living in a hole, and he was starving to death every day, and he met a Jedi, and the Jedi trained him because he had potential, and then they killed the Jedi in front of him. Oh, boo-hoo. Anyway, it was a great way to end the story, and I really liked the way it ended, the way it began with Wim and his little iPad. We were seeing, and I went back and watched the first episode, and the first scene we see is a Jedi with a green lightsaber with a Rancor, which I think is Luke. I think that image that he was looking at was Luke, and that's the first image we see at the end of the film. I call it a film, like DP said. This is like a movie.
Yeah,
exactly.
And all the scenes that they went through with everything. So, and then I started thinking, like, wow, maybe Wim was like this. We saw this whole story in his head, like he wanted this to happen. It didn't really happen, but he wanted this to happen in his life. But it was however you want to deal with it. It was great. Great finale, probably the best one I've seen of any series in a while. Well done.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like the best of any series, but for Star Wars, it was probably one of the better. Well, you know what? Yeah, it's probably better season finales if you want to call it. If you want to call it a series finale, I don't know if it's going to get a second season, but it did, like you said, can wrap up really tight, really succinct. And it read just like how a movie would end, like the whole season, like I said, just to me felt like a chopped up movie. This could have been combined all into one, 3-hour movie. And, you had your beginning, middle, and end to this. If they decide they just need to just end it here, I mean, you got your complete story. You could put Jod in something else. You can talk about Ad and then the pirates and stuff and something else. You don't involve these kids on any additional adventures, because essentially, why would you? Unless you just want to do like a Goonies 2, or some sort of sequel just to get them kids into some more adventures. But by that time, they're going to be like in, the way they do these series and stuff. It takes them long enough to put stuff together anyway. But I really like the beginning, middle, and end of this. The final episode propelled like the narrative, the story, and everything. We got the tiebacks with the owl. We got to see, we got to hear supposedly where Jod came from and everything, to the point where, okay, who was the mysterious Jedi that taught him, all this stuff? And he knew pretty much how to work like the Force and like the laser sword, to enough to make it feel like, okay, this guy has some training in something, so he must have been something, or somebody must have did something with him to give him this much training with that with the Force and his lightsaber and everything. The parents weren't really overbearing. I was expecting more from the parents, but I think that will be more of a season 2 thing. And I think the way they left it with them just being sort of like sidekicks to the kids was probably the best way that you could have did this whole season, instead of trying to overbear with a bunch of different parental narratives that really couldn't be answered in this season. So they did what they did, and I'm very satisfied with where they left off at.
So I think this is a successful series as is, and if they want to tell more stories with these characters, I think I'd be open to that. But I think it did what it had to do, which is tell a story that's entertaining and introduce some of these characters that you can use later on down the line, since you're telling stories across so many different eras and time frames. So these characters that you introduce after the fall of the Empire are going to be adults when it's time for, the new Civil War era, the First Order era, the post First Order era, the Rey series, the Rey movies. So these are characters that you could just use and throw them in there, and you'll know who they are without having to be reintroduced. So as far as that goes, I think that was very successful. I enjoyed the way they wrapped up the story. I thought the payoff of who the supervisor was good. That was very interesting. I like the dust, all the details of the supervisor's tower. Everything's been running sort of like clockwork, and this robot is like, thinks it has the upper hand and everything, and it gets kind of beat up, which I again enjoyed. It reminded me of that Futurama episode with the Femputer and the Amazons, the Death by Snoo episode. Kind of reminded me of that. So that was pretty neat. It'll be interesting to see what happens with all this money. Like, you have these people who are just sitting on all this money. Like the New Republic is just going to start spending this cash, right? You imagine what they're going to do. So then, I'll put on my, my conspiracy theory hat and say, did the real pirates end up with the money at the end of the day?
The New Republic are the real pirates,
right?
So that was an interesting little twist at the end there. I like the way they dealt with the pirates at the end here. I think having them all get blown up and they're going to get, they're just sort of stuck here. And all the ones that survived. I loved again, Julia White screaming, "Get back to your post," but nobody listening. Again, a perfect spot for Urkel to end up in the Star Wars universe on a classic ship. So things are great. I feel like, Jod has this characteristic that's kind of similar to the Joker in The Dark Knight, where he has a multiple choice origin story, and he's just going to tell whatever he has to tell to survive. I think there probably is a kernel of truth there, because he does seem to be a force sensitive, and he seems to use that power to know how to harp on people, how to get them to do what he wants, which we see him do multiple times, and of course the telekinesis and laser sword handling training he must have had made him a competent warrior. I would be happy with another season of this, although I would want there to be enough time to pass so these characters can age into being 13, 14, 15,
right,
something like that, more capable. Time jump. Maybe they're getting into the New Republic. Maybe the New Republic is taking over AT-AT, and then they're going through like a cadet program and all that other stuff. And this could be a slice of life of like, why would anybody care about what happens to the New Republic? You know what I mean? Like everywhere we see in Star Wars is some sort of backwater or a slum or a barrio or just a bleak brutalist skyscraper on Coruscant. You know what I mean? There's nowhere that they show us where it's like been a good deal being in the Republic or being in the Empire. And so it's interesting to see, like, if things are running right in the Republic, what does that look like? And it looks like AT-AT, right? It looks nice, and you have the droids running things, and there's there's driverless buses everywhere. Is apparently a symbol of affluence in the Star Wars universe. So I like that commentary as well. This is I think this is a good movie. I'll be interested, DP, to watch it back all at once and see if it does change how I feel about it. But a return to form is maybe the way to say it. A return to form was this series for me.
No, I kind of echo what everybody else says. I really enjoyed it. Ending was to me very anticlimactic, and that was okay because at the end of the day, this was really laid out to be a children's story, so they weren't going to get too gory as far as the murdering and all that. Which, hey, I can appreciate. Like I said, it was a change of pace. It's a different show. It was themed towards different people. I really do like the payoff, though. You know, they kind of left the cliffhanger open. You know, it's always fun, and it ended like every other episode, which I was surprised. Very abrupt. Like they left it completely open. Right? It was just like it ended, and that was it. So, you know, I can appreciate that. Will we see another season? I'm not too sure. You never write anything off, but like we said, I mean, there's just so much going on in this kind of time frame. It leaves the characters open to do their own thing, and what you've seen now from Disney, as far as you know, their whole portfolio, they've been really akin to like leaving a lot of movies and series wide open and allowing these characters, whether it be, you know, the Wicked characters or whether it be a Marvel series, they love to leave things open to where we're seeing multiple people get spin-offs on their own. So like Kid said, I wouldn't be surprised to see these people show up in episode 10, or it just leaves it wide open. Or even in this, you know, even in these Mandalorians, these episodes here we get with the Ahsoka stuff. I mean, they'll be at that age to be, you know, late teen, maybe early adult age. So it leaves them open in this time frame to where, you know, they can come up and be key characters, and you don't have to worry about recasting the children. You can find somebody like we did with the Rosario Dawson. They can either de-age her, or they can find somebody to play their adult form. So I'm excited about the show.
Doing anything right now? Well, that ain't no work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A whole Neil series, an anthology of Neil. Just
just get to it. I mean, that's a Disney Plus, Disney XD show waiting to happen.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Neil can carry the show, for sure.
I was worried about Neil when that bike blew up. I was like, oh man, come on, you can't go off Neil.
No, he can't go down like that.
I was surprised they didn't really kill off anybody, to be honest. I thought there would be.
Ken didn't get his wish.
Yeah, no one really. All those pirates died. I mean, I'm assuming that when their mothership went down, all those pirates died. So, now you said Disney's not into
red shirts.
Yeah, Disney's not into like the murder thing, but there were a lot of people getting murdered in the series.
Well, I mean, it wasn't really
episode. It was like murder, people getting shot.
It wasn't as gory as you would imagine. This was more like this was to me like a Pirates of the Caribbean type feel. You know what I mean? Like very like soft kills. It wasn't, you know, like it wasn't like The Acolyte, or you know, it was murder. It was something, soft murder. It was something that I would consider like, you know, that's something that we can put as far as my tagline of the week: soft murder. You know, instead of like soft murder, kind of like soft porn. You know, that's another story for another day. You know, soft murder. You know, because like if you think about it, like there weren't like really, you know, impalings or nothing like too like, you know what I mean. It was just something that I guess would, unfortunately, our children have learned it and be akin to with television, right? That there's different levels of murder, I guess, you know. That's why we have ratings on TV shows. So,
and there could be a difference. I mean, do you want to be soft murdered or hard murdered?
You know,
I mean, you mean like in my real life, or like
like if you had a choice, all of a sudden someone came to you and said you're going to be murdered now, but it could be soft or it could be hard, but the end result is the same. You're murdered. I mean, what are you picking?
Whatever's quicker, I'll take. I'll take whatever's quicker.
Yeah, the same amount of time, like whatever it is. It's just the amount of the level of intensity.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like the soft murder. I don't want to be like decapitated and stuff. That's pretty, you know what I mean?
On screen though. You know what I mean? Like I want to be on screen for my own murder.
Hard murder. We have to go to The Shining.
Okay. That's like Art the Clown. I mean, the guy's like beating somebody's brains like to the pulp. Like that's a hard murder. I don't want to go out like where you can't make out who I am because a guy sledgehammered me to death. You know what I mean? Like,
well, how about just an axe to the back?
Crazy clown just sledgehammer.
You know what I mean? An axe to the back isn't like hard murder. Now, multiple strikes. I mean, that's like nerdcore. We need to figure out how many strikes from the axe is soft murder compared to hard murder. Like, you know what I mean?
Because there's definitely a way to do a hard murder without showing any of the murder. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can do that. So I agree with you there. I do.
I mean, so we could say in the Acolyte there was So when that Jedi went down, he drank the poison. I think poison is
Soft murder.
yeah,
Yeah.
poison is like soft murder.
Yeah.
So Disney was making a stand and saying, okay, we're murdering this person, but we're going to do it lightly. Now,
Right.
in Skeleton Crew, when the pirates board the ship, we don't know who the. It's just the same as A New Hope. We didn't know in the beginning who the bad guys were and who the good guys were, right? You just see a ship boarded and a battle going on, but you didn't know who was good or bad at that moment. It was
At
just
that moment, yeah.
So we had the same thing at the beginning of Skeleton Crew. We had the same thing. A ship is boarded. Now, who are the bad guys? Who are the good guys?
Yeah,
We
you're right.
didn't really know. A lot of people were getting murdered, in that scene. I think Disney, and I have to give them props because they are keeping it real. Like when there should be violence, they're making it violent, but they're doing it. They're doing it. I don't want to say nicely because then they're back to soft and hard murder, but they're doing it with taste. They're doing it tastefully.
There's every type of every movie has its own mix, right? And I think they've struck a good mix because one movie that had a good mix of on-screen soft and hard murder was Star Wars, the original Star Wars, right? Because you have that because Darth Vader choking someone on screen.
That's hard.
That's a hard murder. Porkins, right? That's pretty hard murder right there. But they also blow up an entire planet of people and explain that to you that's happened by cutting away to a guy and have him be like, "Oh, I got a feeling a lot of people just died." Literally, I got this weird.
That definitely wasn't soft murder.
No, but it wasn't over the top. It wasn't like it didn't put it in the Friday the 13th realm of murder, but you murdered millions of people.
The implication, if you really think about, hold on for a second here. Jesus Christ. So yeah, the implication, if you really think about, how it came about, in your head, if a child was to think about it a little further than what the context on the screen was, then he's probably gonna have nightmares about it. But you don't show it on screen, child is just gonna go to like whatever the next scene is, and it's all happy dances again, So it's just a matter on what you want to show. Disney chooses not to show any of the aftermath, just more implied stuff.
Revenge of the hard murder pinnacle. A lot of like Dooku getting his hands and head chopped off. And the whole
he got his head scissored off. That's hard murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would put that in the hard murder.
Yeah, him getting his head scissored off is pretty bad.
Yeah.
So before the sequels movies, Revenge of the Sith was the only PG-13 Star Wars, right?
Yeah,
it was noted. I remember during production they were talking about its darker tone, more violence. Like this is actually the war has been going on, so it's like they were talking about the difference between like the technology in like 1914 and 1918 or 1941 and 1945 and how things are going to progress and everything. And then they did show us the actual Clone Wars through that sequence of cartoons, right? The Gennady Tartakovsky cartoon.
Yeah.
So they were. It was an escalation, and so Revenge of the Sith was supposed to be the darkest movie because it is the one where Anakin, you lose Anakin.
Yeah.
So that's.
Well, I mean, there's several things that happened during that movie. Order 66, you lose Anakin.
Like high stepping like Deion Sanders into the end zone in that one. Like,
Anakin, doing all those kiss and everything. I'm like, geez. Yeah, it's that's a hardcore movie right there.
That's so is that a hard murder or a soft murder? All the young ones.
He was striking the hell out of him. That's a hard murder for sure.
That's a hard murder.
Well, we never actually saw any. It was implied, so it was up to your imagination as to whether.
Hold on. Does that matter?
We saw what he did to the Tusken Raiders, Ken. We know what he did with those young.
Yes, we saw that because that was emotional. He was emotionally charged. He saw his mother die.
He was a lot more pissed when he went into that temple.
so that's why they showed that, but they didn't when he went into the temple and cut down
guy's
the
eyes were
younglings.
Ken. The guy's eyes were yellow. He was on another level. He was Super Saiyan in the temple. His eyes were yellow at this point.
No, I'm not denying that. Yeah, he cut them all in half. He actually went back and made like quarters out of them. But they didn't. None of that was on screen. It was just you saw him ignite the saber, and you saw the one youngling, and his face reflected the beam, the light in his face, and that that was it. That was the end of the scene.
They'd be able to get away with that now. Not at that point, but now they'd be able to get away with it.
Yeah, now we'd want to see something, right? We want to see like
we want to see a youngling get chopped.
Yeah,
Look what we saw in Andor compared to this show. Like we saw, we talk about like the level of like violence. We saw people actually bleeding out of the mouth. Like it was like a real war scene. Remember?
Yeah.
When they had attacked the village. So it was like we talk about. It was almost like some of these like Civil War type scenes. I mean, the level of
when his sister was getting mind flared.
Yeah,
she was bleeding out of her mouth, her ears, and all areas.
So yeah, I mean the level of detail of violence, which is crazy. We're talking about it, but the level of detail they take the violence to these shows, it makes it more realistic, than like, and that's why I think like we talk about it, the Skeleton Crew, it was very loose. It was a family story. I mean, it was, like I said, I enjoyed it because it didn't get too hardcore in. I was happy they didn't really dive into the lore stuff, because I was guessing that Wim was going to drop some kind of like, Luke Skywalker, or I'm glad that John.
And this is where you would piss this guy off because he was pissed off at the end of Acolyte and everything. You start broaching lore and everything as Skeleton Crew, and then don't follow up on that. Then you would just piss this guy off. So I'm glad he's happy.
I was so happy.
Finally in the Star Wars series where this guy is not mad.
I'm happy because you don't have to do too much, and that's what I'm really happy about the show. They didn't do too much. They didn't have to introduce.
They didn't do too much.
They didn't have to introduce.
It's like a good football play. You know what I mean? There's not you can a little bit of misdirection, like a little play action's one thing, but if you start flipping the ball, lateraling the ball before you throw it down the field, I mean that success ratio to start
doing way too much.
No, too much razzle dazzle.
Accidents happen with that.
That's the Detroit Lions right there. The Detroit Lions doing too much. That's what's going to happen. These extra shit in the backfield.
Oh, here we are back at football. Hey,
right?
Can we? I think Steel City. You said you liked the way that the supervisor was introduced and went down. So I feel like they missed because we had talked about. We thought that the supervisor may have been Palpatine.
Yeah.
And we had a setup. We had the elevator opening to a dark room with the red lights around it. We had, the dark control room. We had a nice setup, and they even tried. I feel like the supervisor, like that's a facade. I had a very, I don't know why I keep talking. I had a very Wizard of Oz feeling about the supervisor. Like the supervisor's just smoke and mirrors. There's someone behind that. It's not a droid.
Yeah.
There's someone behind it. And even the light kept flashing between red and blue at various tones and emotions that he was speaking. And he was using verbiage and lines that we were familiar with Palpatine saying. Like, I am very interested in your career. I will have been watching you very closely as the Chancellor Anakin. And he said to Obi-Wan, I'm watching your career. I'm watching your, he had he had a very Palpatine vibe. So I feel like
he also caught Jedi in his lie too.
He did. And it was very quick. And I feel like if you're gonna run a planet with a robot, you're going to make that robot a little more impregnable than just just taking its eyeball out. Like I felt like it was
a quick way to kill. It was a quick kill.
It was a very quick. It was a hard murder. It was a hard murder for a droid, and I feel like that wasn't right in the eye, right in the eyeball. And it just
kill from T2, right? When the T1 gets that guard.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
It spoke back to a lot of different things for me as far as like sci-fi and droids. But I felt like the supervisor element was extinguished a little bit quickly. I don't
It
know.
was. You know what is crazy? Go ahead, Edge.
I like that they timestamped like when the last time they had contact with the Republic was, right? Because it was definitely after Palpatine. It was after Palpatine declared Order 66. So the last contact these guys got was Order
Jedi were
66.
traitors, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we know at some point Palpatine was essentially in contact. Palpatine's government or his administration or his regime, whatever we're calling the Empire, was in contact with that and under the auspices of being the Republic. And then they stopped as if for some reason Adden wouldn't recognize the Empire as legitimate for whatever reason. I don't know why they wouldn't, because you know the Empire in Star Wars is just like the Roman Empire. There really wasn't a some sort of cut where they were like, we're starting over, tear everything up. It was just a continuation of the institutions, and then one guy got control of all. Kind of how the Roman Empire changed from the Republic to the Empire. So they should, you would think, still be plugged in for Palpatine during the time when Palpatine was the state. And now that they're not, are they gonna? Does the New Republic just get all this money? And what would it be like if you dumped, the entire GDP of the United States in hard ass currency on the United States right now, right? Like in quarters. Like what would happen if you dumped like $5 trillion in quarters on the United States? It'd be crazy. It'd be pandemonium. Arcades would come back, right? But it would change a lot of stuff. It would have a huge impact economically on when you add a bunch of money into the system. It has a huge impact economically. Look at what happened to like Spain after they discovered the New World and started stripping it for parts and sending everything back. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts, the history of the galaxy moving forward and how it makes the New Republic like, I don't know, almost like they don't care anymore about anything other than sitting on this hoard of money. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts.
I mean, you make an interesting point though about that. Just kind of the supervisor. I mean, because I was getting vibes that Ad-Atten was more of the way he was programmed. You're right. I personally think that the Ad-Atten was a hidden stronghold, and what they were doing is with this currency, because it wasn't with the Republic, it was Old Republic currency. To me, this is like screams like an Empire stronghold. Like the way the supervisor was moving, they were hiding and they were essentially printing money for Palpatine's. For this would funded the final order, right? This is what funded them to be able to build all these things. Because it's super weird, because why would you have a barrier protecting it or hiding it from the New Republic? So after the Emperor failed, why wouldn't they just pull the switch and allow themselves to be visible to the galaxy at this point, right? Because the threat was gone. So to me, it seemed like this is more of, like I said, this is more like an Empire stronghold. Because keep in mind, the Emperor knew everything about Galaxy. I'm sure he knew about Ad-Atten. So to me, this would seem like something under his control. As we talked about, and this makes sense because we always ask, where does the funding come from? Where does the money come from?
Yeah, maybe directly under his control. And the supervisor, like the droid that we saw, was just another security droid, a bigger one.
I think
bigger.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't the end result. Even when Jod was turned around, he looked out the window and he saw his ship going down. I had a flashback to Return of the Jedi when the Death Star, the second Death Star, was getting sieged on. It just really felt like they were trying to tell us something, like there was a hidden message, Easter egg, that there's more to this, and we may do a new story. Maybe the next part of this is Jod's story. It's what does he do now? Now, are we to believe that basically now Jod has control of all this money? Because I mean, we didn't see him get arrested. He didn't.
I think he is. I think as a pirate he escapes, but the New Republic kind of like. The question becomes is,
He has
No,
no
I
no
think he
credits.
escapes with maybe a little bit of money. You know how pirates are. It's like they'll have their sleazy exit. He'll have a little bit with him, but the bigger question becomes is like when they remove the shield, right, or the barrier, is that able to come back up, or like is this going to be an open world to? Because
Oh,
ultimately, like he said, the New Republic just comes back in and they just raid the planet and they start regulating the funds. You know,
Yep.
so is it going to be one of those things? Because now that the New Republic knows where it is and there's a location for it, what happens? So they put the shield back up, and it's kind of like one of those things where you have to have clearance to come in because
Yeah,
allegedly, remember
hence
the
who's
only
the
people
real pirates.
correct,
Mhm.
yeah. They only let really what dignities into At-Aten. There was nobody else allowed ever in. So yeah, it kind of begs to differ what really becomes of the funds and the planet as a whole.
Have they been coming and taking it? Because they said they had like 1,100.
Oh yeah, there's like 1,100 vaults of that money. Yeah, it's like one of 1,100.
Is that
That's a lot.
refill, right? Like, what's the rate? What's the rate of shitting out these dollars? Is it like, okay, well, we fill this every 6 months, someone shows up and takes all of it in a big cargo ship and leaves, and that's that. We don't know where it goes. We don't care where it goes. That's the big work. Or is it like, hey, we've been waiting for a very long time for someone to come and get these things, and we've now stockpiled over 30 years, 1,100 vaults worth of these things. Like what?
I think what you just said. I don't think any of this has been left the planet until now. None of it. I think it's been hidden, protected, or I don't think the people on the planet really knew what they were doing, what the great work was. Each of them did their own little piece, and that's it. They had no idea what was going on.
If this is the galaxy's mint and you just took the mint offline, it would mean that they would not be able to create enough currency to keep the economy going, and it would account for the contracting economy under the Empire, right? And all the problems that they have, because it looks like, it sure looks to me like the economy stinks by the time we get to Palpatine year 20, right? Like things are just going downhill. The trade between planets has been reduced, so as all the free movement of people, so it's just a lot harder to make a buck in the Empire with Palpatine. So it would make sense if that was the case if the mint, like, nobody came to pick up the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just wouldn't get into the system. So like if if the mint in Denver or wherever they make the $100 bills, just nobody went to pick them up again, they would just never make the circulation, and we would see a vacuum in the money supply. We would notice that eventually. Well, depending on how big. Now, if that ad is one of like 16 million of these things that exist all across the galaxy, then it's not going to have as big of an impact. It's just a treasure place.
Right, because that would go back to that little story they were trying to tell us about it was 8 or 9 other planets that were hidden but destroyed. At-Aten was the last one, so all the other mints are gone. At-Aten is it. So if there's going to be if you're going to be getting your money from somewhere, if revenue's coming from somewhere, it's coming from this planet. So whoever controls that barrier controls the mint. That's the bottom line.
Controlling the switch economy is a very, very, very important job. That's like the central bank, the Department of Treasury. You know what I mean? The Chancellor of the Exchequer in England. That's like the number 3 or number 4 job in every single government is controlling the lever on how much money is getting into the system and out of the system. So it would be a big deal if Palpatine lost contact with these guys right at a certain point. It would mess up a lot of stuff for the Empire. Interesting stuff.
No,
it's just the first time that money's been such a big piece of Star Wars. Like I think Disney's trying to inject a little bit of reality into it, because when I was watching these movies, no one really the gamblers and the gangsters were dabbling in money. They were gambling, they were stealing, they were saying, hey, I'll take you to this planet for 10,000 credits and you'll get an extra 4,000 when we get there. Like, what's a credit? Like, what is it? Is it a lot? It must be a lot. Like 10,000 credits that's a good haul. That's a good day's work.
You don't know the value of it. Yeah.
You don't know the
Right.
value. Now I think we're getting an idea that the galaxy, the Star Wars universe was kind of running on this the whole time. And the Empire obviously had the most of it because they could build the shiny toys that they had. And they had really nice stuff and they had good stuff.
I think you're bringing up a really good point because with the episodes 4, 5, and 6, you really pretty much just got a straight story of son who had a relationship with his dad, found out about his dad and everything, and taking an adventure across the galaxy. When Lucas introduced politics to Star Wars, starting the Phantom Menace and everything, and started talking about trades and all this stuff, that's when you really got the road map to where we are right now, talking about finances and all this stuff and like Star Wars and everything, pretty much making the things a lot more complex and complicated versus how this whole universe initially started off with 4, 5, and 6.
Just an adventure, like a story.
Right.
You just had you had a story. You had a story. It was this story of the son and redeeming his father. That's it. That's all Star Wars was. But now, what you said, once Lucas introduced the infrastructure, the economy, the government, we started to, because he wanted to tell the story of the Clone Wars, because that's something it talked about. We didn't know what that was, but something had to get us to the Clone Wars. So we needed to know about the Republic. And they didn't refer. They didn't refer to themselves as the Old Republic yet, right? It was just the Republic. Now we have that Old Republic, New Republic, the conflict with the Empire, the conflict with the New Order, and now it kind of makes sense. Now something has to drive all this, so there has to be money. There has to be an economy somehow. But we still don't know how much does it cost to build a dreadnought? How much does it cost to build a squadron of X-Wing and train the pilots to fly it?
But they're doing a good job, and they did a good job in Skeleton Crew of conveying that information without talking about the numbers, right? Because they're not saying like, "Oh, there's this many trillion blah 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 credits." They're like having them show up and try to pay for something with this credit, and have like the pirate or the vendor looking at this thing and being like, trying to pay with a ruby or emerald this size. You'd be like, what the hell? I guess I'll take it, but I can't make change. It's impossible for me to do that.
Right.
And what did the guy say when they bought lunch? Wim and Neil, they bought lunch. He said, "Do you have any more? Where are the rest of them?" And Wim is just like, "Yeah, I have these." And they were like, "Oh, that's enough."
The weirdest thing about this show is that the hiding your money in your sock thing works with these pirates. These pirates
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
They didn't even check the sock. I know to check the sock. I'm not a great pirate. I'll tell you that much right now. I've never done a stick-up job, but I know to look at the sock. So those pirates need to go back. Maybe they're just bad pirates. It's the best Jude Law could find, and they're just the terrible pirates. Like there's much better pirates.
Misfit pirates. They'll just give you. You ask them for their treasure, they'll just give it to you. You ask them very sternly.
I mean, if you really think about the pirates, there wasn't a whole lot to them anyway.
Yeah, they were pretty transparent. I mean, you knew where you stood with those pirates. They weren't crafty. They weren't very like Jack Sparrow was a pretty crafty pirate. You didn't know exactly where you stood with him. You could, if you had something he wanted, then you were just fine. Once he was done with you, you were up for some hard murder because that was about it.
They weren't really loyal. They weren't really loyal to the wolf guy.
Yep.
They just follow whoever was the strongest, I guess.
Changed their loyalty right over to Urkel and right back over to Jod. And...
Right. Their loyalty shifted to where their intentions were, I guess.
You think it took the New Republic a long time to find all the pirates on Adden that are obviously running away and trying to hide out in the woods? You think they had to send squads out to go capture those guys?
I think they all gave up after a couple days. They wouldn't be able to live out there. They wouldn't be able to live on the land like that.
So I guess a question would be, if this does take place in the same time period as Ahsoka and Boba Fett and all that stuff, Mandalorian, are we going to see, not necessarily the kids, but are we building the world out to where Adden and the events from this can sort of coincide with whatever's going on in those other shows and stuff?
I believe so. I mean, I think this whole kind of Mando verse or whatever is like a world building exercise based on, and this is, kind of, Filoni, and this is basically Favreau's kind of influence, I think, on Star Wars, what he did with Marvel, right? Is starting with something that was kind of, we already knew Star Wars had endless stories, right? But the kind of fabric with this Filoni verse or this Mando verse is really like starting with something and being able to branch off characters and stories and really make the galaxy seem like it's endless now, right? Because we're in a part that we never would have expected to be at, a hidden mint, where planets are masked from basically, vision, things like that. They had a gas barrier. It's almost like it's weird, the idea, the concept of it, right? It's like it's a cloak that's not necessarily a cloak, right? We see superhero shows, I think of like the Invisible Jet or somebody that can cloak themselves, camouflage, but this was more of some kind of gas barrier that you could consider like, a dead star of some sort or something. You know what I mean? I wouldn't know what you would consider that, flying by it. And, the fact that they leave it open like this.
And it was more than just gas. It had like laser cannon.
It was like a dark lightning. It was like a defense layer in there.
It's an arrangement.
It's very sinister. Yeah.
It's a Dyson sphere around the planet. Like, it'd be like if you had Earth and then around the orbit of the moon, you had a Dyson sphere of satellites surrounding the Earth that was projecting a masking / defensive matrix, and it would just engage anything automatically that came close to it. That sounds like the sort of thing that would be useful to have if your planet was attacked.
It's something that Palpatine might come up with. I mean,
Yeah.
it stinks of the Empire, if you ask
That's
me.
what I'm saying. Especially the tech, like for them to be such a mining planet, that's where it goes to believe like those don't seem like things that the Republic would have, that kind of technology and those.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with this treasury. Stealing the treasury is like a big. If there's a revolution in your capital, you don't want the insurrectionists getting the money. They don't want them getting the treasury. Julius Caesar, when he declared war essentially on his political opponents, he marched directly to Rome, and Pompey and the Senate, they were too slow getting the treasury out of Rome, and so Caesar captured it, and he had all the money to pay mercenaries and all this other stuff, and it really crippled his enemies because they couldn't raise troops on foreign ground in Greece, right? They didn't have possession of Italy where the loyal people that would be loyal to them were, and they didn't have the money to pay off the people where they were in Greece, so it really hurt their ability to fight back. So something like Palpatine showing up and being like, no, actually I am the chancellor, and here's all the proof that you should give me all this money, and then taking all the money away, feels like it should happen, and would explain why everyone thinks the New Republic is a bunch of idiots, and explain why the First Order seems to have everything shiny and new over there, man. It's brand new, it's polished, it's sleek, looks like someone paid top dollar for their.
And it's black, it's gloss black and gunmetal gray and stark white, and you got some really attractive colors. And I mean, if I had the choice, and I'm looking to sign up with one of these sides, like New Order or Rebellion, or I'm going New Order. I mean, they've got the flags, they've got the armor, they have guns. I mean, they have really great ships. And what's the Rebellion? They've dug themselves into a cave. They've dug themselves in the side of a mountain. And yeah, exactly. Evil looks pretty good. I mean, it has a nice cosmetic.
Yeah, that's nice benefits.
Yeah, I mean the benefits are very good.
401k,
So
vacation time.
You woke up this morning and thought, I'll do a Pro Bowl for Evil tonight. That's what I'm going to do.
Just want to get that out there. I mean, try Evil. Give Evil a try.
Give Evil a try.
Try it. We're all going to get a chance next week. Try that hat on, I think.
Right.
Boy.
Looking forward to that.
We got one wearing the black hat right there. I mean, that's about as evil as you can get. I mean, the cowboy in the movies, all the movies with the black hat was the evil
The bad
cowboy,
guy. Yep.
the bad sheriff, the bad. Just so you're leading the charge, DP. I mean, and he looks good on you, right? So
Thank you. Evil looks good.
Easily. He's the man in black.
Evil
like on
looks
Westworld,
good.
Remember that?
That's a great tag. Evil looks good on you.
Evil looks good on you. Oh man.
Oh, guys, it's definitely been a fun run for sure, and back to working on our fan fiction and going over things. So can't wait to dive back into that.
GBT and get that guy back out of the garage.
Oh yeah.
Dust him off a little bit.
Our supervisor.
Yeah,
Our supervisor, yes.
Yeah.
Our supervisor. What's his name? You name him? Brad.
I forget his name. We named him.
What did you say, Brad?
Yeah, Brad.
I think it's
Bradley.
I'll have to go back and figure out what his name is. But no, guys, can't wait to.
Brad won't give it any context. Just be like, it seems you're calling me Brad.
He'll pick up on that and start referring to himself, in the third person or third.
Moving forward, you may refer to me as Brad.
But no, definitely can't wait to get back into the fan fiction stuff, guys. And said we really appreciate you guys spending these last 8 weeks with us, diving into the Skeleton Crew. I mean, this is one of the first series I think that every episode really resonated with us, and it was as we call it, a 10 out of 10. So definitely, I think they knocked it out the park with the show. So bring on Andor in the next 3 months, and until then, guys, we got a lot of more content planned for you guys. So thanks for watching, and as always, this is the way.
This is the way.